The bulk of those casting ballots today and tonight in Wisconsin are the hardiest of political souls. Since Scott Walker became governor 5 years ago, there have been 17 state Senate and 2 statewide recall elections for voters to educate themselves on. These people know their politics, which does not bode well for certain candidates. Down to the Wisconsin dirt. Let's welcome back from Washington, Newsmax Chief D.C. correspondent John Gizzi joins us. John, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Let's get to work. Let's talk a little Wisconsin here right now before we get down to the question about Cruz and Kasich. Because we hear things, as I just said, that the people in Wisconsin are very politically educated. They know their way around a ballot box. Is it not fair to say that that does not, no matter how you slice it, bode well for Donald Trump?
It bodes well, except for one thing. This is a very informed electorate, as you pointed out, Ed. And I have to note, Governor Scott Walker is someone going all out to help Senator Ted Cruz, not because he's a Cruz acolyte, but because he wants to stop Donald Trump. It's that simple. I spoke to the Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin 5 days ago. Her name is Rebecca Clayfish, and she said Mr. Trump made a fundamental error when he mocked the recovery Wisconsin has had under the leadership of Governor Walker, how his reforms of pension and health care really haven't paid off the deficit in the state. Well, they've not only paid them off, but they've allowed Wisconsinites to cut property taxes. The lieutenant governor said, "You don't insult family here," and that's why she's confident about a Cruz win.
All right, let's talk about Cruz and Kasich, because I know you've had a chance to talk to both of them, and we have talked about this,
Yes.
At least as far as the media is concerned, this enmity that basically exists between the two, at least right now with Governor Kasich staying in the race. When you talk to them individually, do you get the sense that it is just that way between them, or is that for show?
No, I have a funny feeling this is very serious. Senator Cruz, without a lot of pushing from this reporter, said, and I quote, "Governor Kasich is a spoiler. All he does is help Donald Trump by staying in the race." End of quote. When I was with Governor Kasich later in the day last Friday in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, he said, "My goal is simply to get delegates everywhere, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, and in New York, and then the convention will decide the nominee." He doesn't mention the name of any opponents, Trump or Cruz, just that he's making it clear he'll stay in the race, and that causes tremendous animosity in Camp Cruz.
Look, let's be honest. Politics makes for strange bedfellows. We've seen, as a matter of fact, our last segment, someone mentioned the fact that Lindsey Graham one time just absolutely drilled Ted Cruz, and now
Yes.
he's out hosting fundraisers for him. So when we look at Cruz and Kasich sitting here, do you sense the possibility, I love questions like this, that we could be looking at Cruz and Kasich getting together not too far down the road, putting their political brains together, maybe coming up with a ticket?
A week ago, I was at a dinner where many Republican congressmen were present. One of Senator Cruz's strongest backers, Lamar Smith, congressman from Texas, chairman of the House Science Committee, said, "I'm for Ted Cruz, and I back a Cruz-Kasich ticket." Now, that's one congressman's opinion, albeit an important figure and a Texan. However, Ed, let me also point out that that is just as outlandish as, say, a ticket of Ronald Reagan and George Bush would have been at this point in 1980.
Wouldn't you think John Kasich, though, and again, no one's really saying that he's not playing for vice president here. Do you think he'd see that as a loss? If he had to accept the vice president's role to Ted Cruz, I can't see him doing that.
Very few people in American history turn down being a heartbeat away from the presidency. Lyndon Johnson was the most powerful Senate majority leader in modern history, the true master of the Senate. He gave it all up to preside over the Senate and go to funerals. Why? Because he was a heartbeat away from the presidency. And of course, the rest is history, as we know. By the way, speaking of historic dates and historic developments, 2 historic birthdays today, yours and the 100th birthday, or what would have been the 100th birthday of Gregory Peck.
See, and I always knew that, well, people have always said, quite frankly, John, that we have to be excellent actors in this business. And if you look around at some of the networks, there's some people who don't quite understand that. So I just would like to say that it's a pleasure to have you mention that. And all of a sudden, I feel like wait a minute, I'm not even getting into Gregory Peck mode here. I'm failing that miserably. John, next time, tell me these things and I'll get a Peck at least ready at this point. 10 seconds. You expect Cruz and Sanders tonight in Wisconsin?
Yes, Wisconsin's history has been to generally back the left of center of the Democratic Party, going back when anti-war candidate Gene McCarthy won his first primary there back in 1968. I think that Sanders will be the lineal heir to McCarthy and win 53-47. Cruz, and a close race for second between Trump and Kasich.
John, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I am now going to go out and immediately find a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. John, take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon. A political animal rife with questions. Don't forget, 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight, America Votes begins right here on Newsmax.